What's going on, everybody? I am here live, and we have Jesse Nelson, who is pretty much a godfather of everything we worship. Jesse from Diabolik and Cauldron Films. How we doing?
Hello, how are you?
Doing wonderful. I'm so glad you can make this happen. I know that we were talking about this for the last month or so, and things are busy out there for you lately, huh?
Very busy, but
How's
good.
Obviously we're gonna get to it eventually, but I just got these in. How's Cauldron been this year?
Cauldron's been great. You know, we've been a little slow out of the gate getting things out, but part of that was I have a partner in this, Brian, and when we licensed Contraband, we were told that the negative was unusable, and he was determined to make it usable. So he spent a good part of COVID quarantine cleaning and fixing Contraband to make it look like it does now.
Jeez.
So, going forward, though, we have so many things ready to go.
That is fantastic. And then on top of that, I mean, you deal with Diabolik almost constantly, I'm sure. That's a lot to keep up with.
Yeah, that's nonstop. But Diabolik's great too. We just moved into a bigger facility.
Oh wow.
I've got people helping me out now. Before it was, just a kind of a family thing, but
right.
Now I have actual employees and a big space.
So tonight, on all of these Thursday nights, we always go through the boutique announcements of the weeks, and we're going to do that and get your reaction to some of them. But afterwards, we're going to go into Diabolik and all of the Cauldron stuff, get into the minutia of it. But before we do the announcements, how about Jesse? Like, how did you originally get into the physical media side of things?
I came from the home video end of it. I'm old enough to where I worked my way through college at a video store.
Right.
And, we run a thing here in Philadelphia called Exhumed Films, where, we've been through a couple of different theaters. We're currently at the Colonial Theater in Phoenixville, Pennsylvania, which is where they originally filmed The Blob. But kind of Diabolik came out of, the home video end of it. And then, it was almost starting to be the end of VHS.
Right.
And people wanted rid of those tapes. So I would just buy them by the dozens and bring them to our Exhumed Film shows and sell them.
Right.
And then eventually it was like, well, what do we do next? And that was the stepping stone to Diabolik.
And if I remember the original story, it was literally a table set up in the lobby of a movie theater selling VHS tapes, right?
Yeah, that's literally what it was.
And that one of those things that I wanted to really show everybody tonight is that even though this is just a hobby for a lot of people, there are a lot of people who have seen this through different generations, and it can be an inspirational story where you literally start with a folding table and cheap pickups that you're selling for a couple dollars markup and grow that into this giant thing. And now Diabolik is shipping worldwide and making waves in so many different sectors.
Yeah, thanks. And that's literally what it was. We had a show this past weekend, and same thing. Set up a folding table in the lobby and had discs for sale.
That is incredible. I'm glad to finally put a face and have the person that writes my name on boxes all the time get to see me in person. It's
been a long time since we've written a name, but yes.
I pre-order so much from you guys, and I literally just for my patrons right before this went live to show something I got in from Diabolik, including the latest Arrow releases. And I just wanted to say thank you for continuing to carry the good word before we get into all this, because physical media without people like you would not be here the way it is.
Thanks. I appreciate that.
So let's get into some announcements, and just feel free to share any reactions to the type of announcement or the film or whatever you'd like. The first thing we got here is Scream Factory. They didn't even announce this, but some have discovered that they are putting out some exclusive steelbooks through Best Buy, and this is for Child's Play, the very first one, and it's getting a 4K steelbook from Best Buy. If you want this, you can pre-order this now. And you do some steelbooks. How do you feel about steelbooks? I'm sure you're not super fond of shipping them.
No, I loathe steelbooks. Probably more than anything is the steelbook. And I have a lot of good international customers who like for me to order these things from Best Buy for them, and I had to stop doing it because everything I got from Best Buy was just garbage. I would have to literally order 5 copies of something and hope to get 2 good ones out of it.
Yeesh. And you would think logically, if you order 5, they would send it in a box, but no, it still comes in these compressed little corrugated bubble pieces of crap, and they are just so awful.
I think the worst one was when they did the Rambo box set. So it was a giant steel box with steel books inside of it.
Yep.
And they just threw them in a box. There's no padding or anything. Threw them in a box. Somehow the steel books inside the steel box all got damaged.
Yep.
As well as the giant stupid steel box that it was all in.
Yeah, I can't imagine that there were many copies of that went unscathed across the US. I bet a perfectly pristine copy of that goes for some big bucks online because there were so few of them.
It's in a museum somewhere. They have to pull it out of a case with linen gloves on.
The next announcement is another steelbook. If you are into the Marvel thing, they're putting out a Best Buy Doctor Strange steelbook. We'll go on past that one. Another one of the big retailers, Target, is having their buy 2 get 1 free this week. If you're into that sort of thing, check it out. That's good till Saturday. But let's get
Cauldron should be involved with that.
They are, yeah.
We're distributed through MVD, and MVD participates in that. So I haven't double checked it, but in the past we have traditionally had the retail Cauldron titles involved with that sale.
I believe at least 2 were. I didn't check all of them, but I try to check for most of the labels I keep an eye on. So yes, Target, and that sale's still good until Saturday. So unless they sell out, which most of the time for the online distributed ones that they don't carry in store, it's rare they sell out of those. Synapse is putting out a standard of the Kindred, and this has everything that was in that first steelbook that they released, all of the same disc content and everything, but that is coming October 25th. Synapse, they have a pretty good relationship with Diabolik, I'd say. You guys do a lot with them. Do they sell pretty well on the site?
They're good, yeah. And I like those guys at Synapse. I know there was a little bit of blowback over this whole thriller thing. Yeah. And sorry. And honestly, that was my timer to make sure that I didn't forget this call. I don't want to talk too much about that, but the Synapse guys are good guys, and their releases are really pretty extraordinary. So
one thing I'll bring up,
things coming too that are going to be great.
Nice. Synapse, speaking of things coming, they do a podcast, and they are about to release a sort of sister podcast talking about their side label that they do. I believe it's Impulse Pictures. Yeah. They're going to put out a whole podcast focused on that. It should be coming out in the next few days. So keep an eye out on that if you are interested. Next one. Full Moon is going 4K. You can currently pre-order this on Diabolik. Trancers in 4K. How do you feel about this one?
I like the movie. I'm a little concerned about Full Moon's recent track record on their Blu-rays.
Yeah.
But, I have some faith.
I'm really surprised they went with this one as their first 4K.
No Puppet Master love?
Exactly. That's
no Subspecies? I don't know.
I expected either one of those.
It's a really solid movie.
Yeah. And then the other one, I didn't list it because I'm trying to figure out some more details on it, but VCI is going 4K as well.
I saw that. When I saw those 2 announcements, because they both came out on the same day.
Right.
I called my partner up and said, Can you believe that Full Moon and VCI are going UHD before us?
I mean, that's a good question as we're talking about that. Are there plans for Cauldron to go 4K eventually?
There's something in the works right now.
Interesting. Very interesting.
Working on it right now as we speak.
That's a nice juicy nugget. Next one, Culture Shock has announced that they're working on a release of Raw Nerve from 1991. This has Tex Cobb in it, but the big name, Tracy Lords. This will be coming later in the year, and either later in this year or early next year, I believe. Culture Shock. There are so many partner labels from Vinegar Syndrome.
Yeah.
And you guys carry pretty much all of them. Do you sell many? That's a question I've always wondered about, because they sell through the site on Vinegar Syndrome, obviously, and you carry all of them. So how do they do for you?
Well, you know, the thing with Vinegar Syndrome, though, is, you know, it's my impression they have a lot of subscribers.
Yeah.
And I know the partner labels aren't always involved, but they get a discount on those too. I'm pretty vocal that I love the Vinegar Syndrome sales, because every time they have those things, so many titles sell out, and then immediately everyone comes, you know, to us guys.
Yeah.
Diabolik and Grindhouse and Orbit, and scoops them up. It's good for,
right.
It's good business for everybody.
That's a good thing. I've never considered that. I'm sure that a bunch of titles will sell out literally like dominoes. I mean, they'll go out, and then you guys will go out, and then Grindhouse will go out.
I'm sure that's exactly what happens. I mean, I know for sure.
That's fantastic.
But I'm looking at this cast here on this movie. This is fantastic. Sandal Bergman, Jan Michael Vincent, Tracy Lords, and I love Randall Tex Cobb.
Yep, and this one is a race car driver. Jimmy Clayton is having mind-shattering visions. Over and over, he sees young women ruthlessly murdered. He tries to go to the police as a witness to the latest murder, but they think he's crazy. An investigative reporter catches wind of Jimmy's tale and tries to help him put the blood-soaked pieces together. But when Jimmy's little sister appears in one of his visions, Jimmy's world comes violently crashing down. And this is 1991, so that's pretty close to peak Tracy Lords.
Yeah, I would think so. What year was Crybaby? That was a little earlier than that, wasn't it?
88?
Yeah.
Something like that. A little earlier.
Yeah.
Moving to the next one, we are getting Some Girls from Kino Lorber. This is from 88, speaking of, with Jennifer Connelly and Patrick Dempsey himself. I have never seen this one. Have you seen this one?
Yeah, you know, I may be remembering this wrong, but I think this is one of those classic video store movies that all the guys wanted to come in and rent because there's a lot of nudity in it.
That checks out.
I may not be remembering that correctly, but I'm almost positive.
Well, I mean, the copy on this poster is pretty telling. Michael is spending Christmas with Gabby and her sisters. They are beautiful, intelligent, and mysterious, and Michael is in love with one of them. If only he could decide which one.
If only. Yeah.
Oh, Patrick Dempsey. Then they announced they're putting out Ace High. This one I don't think I've seen, but I know that a lot of people are after this one, and it's a Bud Spencer title. Westerns. Obviously, you guys don't have a ton of them listed. Are you into Westerns much?
It's not my first choice. I do like the Westerns, but if I'm going to watch an Italian movie, it's almost always a horror movie.
Right.
And then a crime movie. So spaghetti Westerns is probably third.
That makes sense.
This has got Terrence Hill and Bud Spencer.
Yeah. This is kind of a big one. And the people that I've talked to that have seen this said that this is one that they've been waiting for a long time.
Yeah, nice. You know, I was interested in licensing Super Fuzz for Cauldron Films. And the licensor wanted to only sell that to us with like 10 other movies.
Holy God.
And, you know, we don't have the money for that, but I don't know that there's the market for that kind of, I mean, maybe Severin will do a box set of Terrence Hill and Bud Spencer movies.
11 Terrence Hill films.
Yeah.
With some giant book, and then it'll probably come out with like a set of cowboy boots. And
you know, there's a video game. I can't think what it's called, something in Beans, but I have it on my Switch here. But it's Terrence Hill and Bud Spencer, and it's a side scroller with the two of them, and you slap people in the face.
I'm gonna have to look that up. That
It's
sounds
true.
fantastic.
Yeah.
I've got a 5-year-old and a 7-year-old, and we play some really dumb little flash games like that all the time
Yeah.
on the Switch. So that sounds perfect. One of your counterparts, Grindhouse, is having their Blue Underground sale going on right now until June 26th, and there are a lot of items for sale for prices that you normally don't see. If you are a Target shopper, some of them are on Target, and you can get those for around the same price. But Blue Underground, a lot of good 4K. How do you feel about Blue Underground as a whole?
Love them. Love them. I know people complain, that they keep kind of mining the same titles that they have in their catalog, but it's a good catalog. It's a great catalog.
Right.
Vigilante and Maniac. And I know Bill directed Maniac and Vigilante, but I don't think he gets enough credit for all the work he did prior to Blue Underground with Anchor Bay. And, he was the first person that I know of that thought to license all these Italian movies and start bringing them. He's really the godfather of where we are now with boutique labels.
Anchor Bay had so many ties to all of these labels. I mean, David Gregory was associated with them, Lustig, handful of others, and we are where we are because of the success of things like Maniac. Literally, you could trace back the success of some of these labels to some of those big, like the tin releases that Anchor Bay did, and
that's right.
The limited. We're only selling 60,000 of these, so you better buy them the first week.
Could you imagine?
Oh, can you imagine a 60,000 print run for Cauldron right now?
Oh my goodness! I mean, I would love it. We recently were trying to interview somebody for an Italian release, and he wanted a lot of money for the interview. And the person that was kind of mediated for us said, "This isn't Anchor Bay, guys," which made me laugh. But yeah,
times have changed a bit.
Yeah, for real.
That's great. Next one, Mysterious Island of Beautiful Women. This is a TV movie coming from Kino, and they are showing the slipcover love to all of their movies lately. Even this one is getting a slip, and it's getting the art that you see here. This has a brand new 2K master, new audio commentary by author and film historian Amanda Reyes and Kinder Trauma co-founder Lance Vaughn. Unless this title springs out to you, I'll ask you a question about Kino. They put out so many titles literally every single week at this point. They're putting out everything under the sun. With Diabolik, are they like fairly good to work with behind the scenes? With how much they put out, I imagine it's kind of hard to keep up.
They're great. They're great to me. I appreciate the titles they put out. They're not all for us.
Right.
And sometimes I even take a chance on things and I'm surprised.
Yeah.
And sometimes I'm disappointed. But these TV movies are doing, they have Ants coming.
Yes.
I can't remember, is Ants a TV movie?
I believe it was.
The Tarantula, the Deadly Cargo, which
when
I was a kid, that scared the hell out of me. I was always scared there was gonna be tarantulas in everything. And we don't have tarantulas here in southern New Jersey, but man, I was so afraid of tarantulas.
I don't remember what it was. It might have been in my Discord with some of my patrons. I was telling a story recently because I grew up in the high desert in California, and tarantulas were a real thing. So when they announced that, I had not seen that movie in literally decades. And there was one time I was in PE class outside, and a tarantula just casually walked through our little PE area. So that was a real fear back then, is that these things are real and you got to watch out for them.
Yeah, certainly.
Next coming up, we are getting this is Sandpiper. They are putting out 4 releases that used to be out on Twilight Time. We're getting State of Grace, Alexander the Great, Equus, and Solomon and Sheba. Twilight Time. They are not doing as much anymore, but are they a company that you were ever super for?
Well, there was a while where those titles, they didn't sell them to anybody. There was exclusive to Screen Archives, and then when they kind of were reborn last year. They had a flurry of titles that came out, and then it doesn't really seem to be much sense.
No. This is nice though, because some of these are ones that people genuinely want, and
Yeah.
when these were in print, they were only, I think they were 3,000 runs back then, and that was it. And there was no standard releases. They did that for some big titles too. So I think if other labels are going to get their hands on them, they probably could do pretty well.
Yeah, for sure. Where's Emperor of the North though? That's the one I want.
There's a lot. I mean, didn't they have Fright Night?
They did have Fright Night, but Fright Night's since come out from the label.
Right.
Sony so I think that's a Sony title.
What's funny to me is it seems like some of these titles that the label or the studios, they just didn't care about for so many years, and now they're seeing boutiques, oh wait, you can sell 5,000 of these? Maybe we should just put it out and make a little bit of money.
Yeah, it's true.
Speaking of studios putting something out, I had to share this one. Real Genius from 1985, starring Val Kilmer, is getting a 4K release. Is this a big Jesse title?
I love this movie.
This movie's incredible.
This was a movie, not only did I always like this movie, but, back when I worked in the video store, we had to be careful what we put on.
Right.
So there was a slate of PG and PG-13 movies that were always on.
Right.
And this was one of them. This, Raising Arizona.
Oh.
Although it's not anywhere near PG-13, we put on Evil Dead 2 a lot. But there was no sex in it. There's not really any bad language, and
right.
So that went on quite a bit. But yeah, Real Genius was on an awful lot.
Looking back, Evil Dead Evil Dead 2 should probably be a PG-13 title.
Yeah.
Nowadays, at least.
That's one that I watch with my daughter. She's never seen the first one, but we've seen 2 and 3 a lot, and she's 19, so she could certainly watch the first one if she wants. I don't think I want to watch it with her, but
2 is much better. This one is coming with some genuine bonus features. First off, it's got a brand new 4K restoration with Dolby Vision, and then Dolby Atmos and 5.1 audio, reviewed and approved by the director Martha Coolidge, and then a feature presentation sourced from the 4K master on the Blu-ray disc, and it's got a new balloon share deleted scene, which a lot of people have seen stills from that over the years, and then the TV version of the film is going to be on the Blu-ray as well, with a feature commentary by the director. I'm just glad we're getting a good release of this, and it's going to be, I guarantee this is going to sell like crazy for them.
I watched the movie recently even, and it's still very funny.
I think this one holds up a lot better than a lot of the other 80s comedies that really fall flat today.
And the guy that lives in the closet, I can't think of what the character's name is, but he's also the guidance counselor on Freaks and Geeks.
Yeah. Jeff is his name on Freaks and Geeks. Yeah. He's great on that. And yep.
Is he also in One Crazy Summer, the uncle or relative that's trying to win the radio show constantly through the movie? He might be.
Actually sounds right.
Yeah, I don't know. In my brain, I think it's that same guy. Who knows?
Well, I mean, he's got such a unique look. It probably is.
Yeah.
Let's see. After Real Genius, we've got a sale coming from Massacre Video that's coming on the 4th of July. They are putting out 3 brand new long-awaited titles. There's an additional 30% off on selected titles, excluding their recent 3-pack of Blu-rays that they put out. 25% off the Flamin' Skull knit sweater that they have, and then other surprises. And free shipping over $50. It's going to be on Monday, July 4th, and last until midnight. No coupon code. And what's funny about this is it says, today on this glorious Flag Day, we are thrilled to announce our return to the sales game with information about our upcoming 4th of July celebration blowout. But with their original announcement, there were some hints that it's probably going to be the Men Behind the Sun trilogy that they've been teasing for a while.
Yeah. Which he teased was going to be UHD too, which is crazy.
Right. And when he teased that, this was when they planned on using a restoration from the people that had the rights to it. But I believe he did another interview that said that when they gave it to him, the restoration looked like crap. And he had to essentially beg them to do his own restoration, which is why it's been delayed until now.
Yeah. So. Yeah. I mean, I've seen that happen too. the licensor says, "Hey, we've already restored this, and here it is," and you get it, and it looks just like wax. Everything is, they've taken all the grain out. Everything's been DNR'd to death.
Yikes.
Yeah. But then we've seen other restorations that, they come to us and they're fantastic. So
is there a studio that you have seen restorations from that seems to be better than others?
I don't know if I have experience enough to say that. I mean, we've done a lot of our own stuff.
Right.
My partner Brian is kind of like, he just lives for this. He's got an eye for the video. He's got an ear for the audio.
Right.
He designs all the packaging. So, he would probably be able to tell you better. We should do this again and have him on with us.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah, it would have to be Cauldron because he's not involved with,
of course,
Diabolik, but yeah, we should definitely do that.
Next up, Jesse,
hey.
And then Criterion had their announcements this week, which I know that you were excited about some of these, and I think this is, for me, the last 2 months have kind of been really big for me from Criterion.
It's good. Blowout is great.
So we're getting Blowout in 4K, which might be the best Brian De Palma film, except you and I kind of share a very similar opinion on this. What's your favorite De Palma?
It's Phantom of the Paradise for me. But, I just love, he had such a run there with Sisters and Carrie and Blowout and Body Double. I love all those movies. I don't like The Fury, though. So give me some hate.
It's funny. I did not plan this clearly because we didn't have the announcements till just yesterday. The De Palma love was here last week because out of nowhere, my mom has hit some tough times and she's staying in our house and she had never seen Phantom of the Paradise. And last Monday, I happened to put it on and fell in love with that movie all over again. It had been a few years, but man, that movie is so great. It looks incredible. The music is so perfect.
It's
so
great.
Well done.
Yeah. It's so good.
But Blowout, not to overshadow Blowout with Phantom Talk.
Yeah, Blowout, great.
And Blowout is great, and it's going to look great in 4K. This is one of those ones that's really going to shine, I think. It's got that odd color palette from around that time that I think really is going to get some good depth of color from the HDR. And this will be a good one. All the same special features as previous, but it'll be a nice upgrade, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Then they announced one that is very intriguing to me, Takeout from 2004. This one says, the American dream has rarely seemed so far away as in the raw verite Takeout by Sean Baker and Shi-Ching Su, an immersion in the life of an undocumented Chinese immigrant struggling to get by on the margins of post-9/11 New York City. Facing violent retaliation from a loan shark, restaurant delivery man Ming Ding has until nightfall to pay back the money he owes, and he encounters both crushing setbacks and moments of unexpected humanity as he races against time to earn enough in tips over the course of a frantic day. And I love Sean Baker. Is this one that's similar to stuff you like?
I don't know this movie, honestly. I just looked into it once I saw this announcement. And, Criterion's like Kino for me. Not all their titles are for us. I don't carry them all, but this is one that I put up to order for sure.
Yeah, I was glad when you put that one up there. I think this one's going to hit hard, especially Sean Baker's big right now. Red Rocket, I just watched a couple months ago. Have you seen Red Rocket yet?
I haven't. It's in my enormous pile of things I need to watch.
Of course. Red Rocket surprised me. I really kind of expected that to be the one that started to fall flat for me, and it just hit perfectly. I loved it.
Yeah, it's definitely one that's in my pile.
Next up is Exotica, a film by Adam Egoyan. This is from 1994 and one of the defining independent films of the 90s. It is a mesmerizing international breakthrough, and it takes the conventions of the psychological thriller into bold new territory. Have you seen this one?
It's great. This and The Sweet Hereafter are peerless films. They're so great.
Yeah.
Was this a Miramax movie? I think it was. I'm wondering, are these Miramax movies somehow getting out of legal hell now?
I think we've gotten indication that a couple of them have been. I think didn't Lionsgate buy like 48% of the stake or something too? I feel like we're starting to see some of that break up.
Yeah, I mean, 88 Films is doing Super Cop in the US, and that was definitely a Miramax movie. That's been tied up for all these years.
Right.
And then Drunken Master 2 was definitely a Miramax movie, and that came out, in the last couple of years. It would be great if all those things, I mean, there's a treasure trove of things in there, because they had sucked up all those Hong Kong movies and ruined them for so long.
Yeah.
And even things like Inside and Martyrs, those things were the Dimension label. They were just kind of been sitting around in limbo. I'd love to see those come back out too.
Yeah, Dimension, obviously for a lot of people like horror, was a huge name for years with everything that they put out. So, Various Spaghetti says yes, it was a Miramax.
Yeah.
Interesting. And this one has an audio commentary featuring Egoyan and the composer. New conversation between Egoyan and filmmaker and actor Sarah Polley. Calendar, a 1993 feature film by Egoyan with a new introduction, and then a couple short films and a double bill short film. There's all kinds of stuff. This is one of their better releases.
Yeah.
And this one getting a Blu-ray release, not 4K, but that kind of makes sense for one like this. I'm curious to see how well this sells for them.
It's great.
I feel like it's going to sell decently, but then I don't know that this has the mainstream appeal of some of the other titles.
Yeah, there was a while that he was on a real tear too. I haven't kept up with his films in recent years, but maybe I should. I should go back.
Criterion continues with Le Corbeau. This is from 1943. A mysterious writer of poison pen letters, known only as Le Corbeau, which is the Raven, plagues a provincial French town, exposing the collective suspicion and rancor seething beneath the community's calm surface. Made during the Nazi occupation of France. This film is by Henry George Clouzot, was attacked by the right-wing Vichy regime, the left-wing resistance press, and the Catholic Church because, of course.
Did anyone not attack it?
Right, left, and Catholic. So, yeah, just a regular thing back then. This is one that I know a lot of people were after. I'm glad this is coming. Not really my style, but this one is.
Yeah, I'm very interested in this one.
Martin Scorsese's World Cinema Project gets its fourth entry into the collection. This one has Sambizanga, Prisioneros de la Tierra, Chess of the Wind, Munamoto, Two Girls on the Street, and Kalpana. These are from India, Hungary, Cameroon, Iran, Argentina, and Angola from 1972, 39, all the way up to 76. I love these sets. Are you into world cinema other than the Italian horror and everything?
Yes. Yeah. But, mostly I take recommendations on things. That
makes sense.
Yeah. Not everything's for me. So.
Right. This one, however, is for me. Sound of Metal, we've known this was coming for a while, but we finally got a release date. September 27th, coming in 4K and Blu-ray from Criterion. This, of course, is the Riz Ahmed deaf music film that I decided not to see until I could get this 4K disc. So I'm dying to see it.
Oh, so you haven't seen it?
I have not seen it. I purposely waited.
Yeah, I really love this movie.
I don't have any confirmation of this, but the way that you do everything, you always scream at somebody that's been big into metal and heavy metal, stuff like that. Are you into music at all?
I do. I love all kinds of music, though.
Have you ever done anything in the music scene at all?
No, I have no musical talent whatsoever. But my partner has. But I'll let him tell that story.
I volunteered for a radio station for a while, and there's some people that you can just tell that by looking at them, they love music. And a lot of the stuff that you do, it screams like similar culture to a lot of that. So that checks out.
This movie's great. And, it's the band that it's kind of based on is Jucifer. Evidently, there is some footage that was shot that this movie was something else at one point, and it was the actual band was starring in the movie, and then it later became Sound of Metal.
Nice. Riz Ahmed is great in pretty much everything I've seen him in, so
Yeah.
I imagine this is amazing.
Yeah, I need to go back and watch Four Lions.
Oh, that's been a while since I've seen that.
Yeah, I had forgotten about that movie, and then I was like, yeah. After I watched this, I was like, I need to go back and watch that.
Then out of nowhere, Kino Lorber has announced some re-releases. They're putting out the Oblong box again with Vincent Price and Christopher Lee. This was released some years ago. This is still the 2015 HD master they did on it. Audio commentary still the same. Everything that it had previously, just getting another release. They probably got the license back, but it does say limited edition re-release. Not sure what that means for Kino because they don't really explain that.
There was a couple things they announced along these lines, right?
Yep. Let me see if the other one's next. No, we got some indicator first. But the cool thing is this is getting a slipcover because, of course, it's Kino. Now everything gets a slipcover. And the big thing is just people get another chance at it. And it seems like Vincent Price has gotten a lot of I mean, he always has, obviously, but he's gotten a lot of attention by way of releases over the last couple of years. And obviously, Christopher Lee has been everywhere lately.
But the two of them are in 20,000 movies together. I don't mean together, but I mean together. There's 20,000 movies that the both of them are in.
Yeah. But also, there's probably 150 where they're both in at the same time.
Yeah, probably. But Dr. Phibes, if you guys don't have Dr. Phibes and Dr. Phibes Rises Again, that Kino just put out, it's great. Those movies, they don't get any better than that.
I agree, and because it was a Arrow release, I'm curious if that's going to get any more attention soon by way of a 4K. I mean, I don't know how the elements are, but if they're decent enough, I'd love to see some Price releases in 4K.
It would be something.
Yeah,
Monster Club 4K. That's what we need.
Price is one of my favorites by far. Indicator, who is great, and I've gotten many titles from them from your site. In fact, I just got this one in from Diabolik, the Kamini organization. They're putting out in the UK only on September 19th, Universal Noir Volume 1. This has 6 films in it, and all 6 of them have been released by Kino in the States previously. So watch and pay attention. You might have some of these already. But this looks pretty decent. It's got The Web, Larceny, Kiss the Blood Off My Hands, great title, Abandoned, Deported, and Naked Alibi. How about Noir? Is Jesse a Noir person?
You know, I don't know that much about the whole genre, but I know the films that I have watched that have been recommended to me are great. They're right up my alley.
Noir for me is very hit or miss. Some are the ones that hit are very good and they hit hard, but then noir was one of those weird genres where they just got a different cast and told the same story like 14 times when they had a good story.
Yeah, you're not wrong.
The US title they announced is Orders to Kill with Eddie Albert, Paul Massey, and this is coming September 20th in the US. This is from 1958. And I believe you'll be able to get both of those on your site, right?
Absolutely. I'm just waiting for some pricing. They just announced those today. So,
yep.
Yeah.
And next one up is some other Kino stuff. This one seems incredible. Cinema's First Nasty Women. This is a 4-disc collection from 1898 to 1926. And just to read the start of this 4-disc set showcases more than 14 hours of rarely seen silent films about feminist protest, slapstick rebellion, and suggestive gender play. These women organize labor strikes, bake and weaponize inedible desserts, explode out of chimneys, electrocute the police force, and assume a range of identities that gleefully dismantle traditional gender norms and sexual constraints. This also will have a 120-page booklet with essays, interviews, photos, and detailed film notes. This looks fantastic.
It looks great. Yeah, I just got in the Kino spreadsheet that they send out to retailers, so I've got to get all that stuff up on the site, but I've already gone through and read everything and, picked out what I've got to put on the site.
Nice. With Kino, what is They have that little line. I think it's called Forbidden Fruit. They've done
It
like
is
13 or
yeah.
4. Are you into those ones at all? Have you checked out any of those?
I have not.
They've got a lot of like the old Something Weird titles on there, and
Yes, yeah.
some of them are just fantastic. It's just this odd look into a completely different era that you just cannot imagine until you watch them.
Yeah. And I can tell from sales how popular they are too.
That's another good one that's really good to get during these Target sales because they don't go down in price very often.
Yeah, it's true.
Here's
Well, the
the
Kino
old.
sales are great.
That is very true.
Their sales are ridiculous.
And speaking of Kino, this is the other Vincent Price one we were talking about. Another limited edition re-release, whatever that means. This is Twice Told Tales coming from 1963 for Kino Lorber. Another Vincent Price, a terrifying trilogy of passion, poison, and possession. I love horror anthologies, and I don't think I've seen this one. I know I need to. Horror anthologies. I'm sure that's something Jesse likes.
I do. But I kind of feel the same way about horror anthologies that I do about short story anthologies. Sometimes I'm just really in the mood to sink my teeth into something, and with the anthologies, you kind of start getting into the story, and then it's over.
Then it's over.
Yeah.
Is there like a comfort horror anthology that you always can go back to for you?
When I was a kid, the Tales from the Crypt always seemed to be on. We had this local cable channel called Prism, which people in the area only had because they had the sports license. So they would have the Philadelphia Flyers and the Philadelphia Phillies. It's the only reason people had Prism.
Right.
And they seemed to show they must have owned Tales from the Crypt because they showed it. It must be every day it was on. So, yeah, I've seen that a lot.
Tales from the Crypt is great.
Creepshow. Creepshow's the best.
Creepshow's my favorite as well. And
yeah.
The main reason is Stephen King's character in that when he gets overwhelmed by plants. His name is Jordy Verrill.
Yeah.
My last name is Verrill, and nobody else ever has that name, so I always associated with that.
That's funny.
Let's see. I think we only got 1 or 2 left. One that is coming out through you guys, Slaughter Day, is coming from Visual Vengeance, which we talked about last month as being a new sister label of Wild Eye, and it's more of like an actual boutique style distribution service, although we have not got their first release yet. I think you're due to get that in just a few weeks, I believe, right?
I have these stress relief barbells.
Oh, that's right.
I have cases of them sitting in the warehouse right now. So I'm anxious to get those out the door.
Yeah, I think that's due. Is it a late June or early July? Do you remember offhand?
I think I looked at the dates today. The one was early July, and then I think the one moved to mid-July. So I don't think they're even on the same day now.
Got it.
And then I think the other 2 are supposed to be coming out right around the same time, too.
Yep. And that one, it had a bundle from Grindhouse Video, and I feel like that bundle's still available.
Yeah, that was with the needle, right?
Yeah, the syringe thing. For LA AIDS Jabber. Slaughter Day, this is one that Brad Henderson, when he was still working at Wild Eye, he worked to get the acquisition for this, so he actually had a hand in putting this out, even though he's no longer with Wild Eye. And the special features they got coming for this, it's going to have archival 1991 SD master from the original tapes, new commentary with Brent and Blake Cousins, an interview with the Cousins brothers, and then a slipcase in the first pressing only with liner notes and early short films, collectible mini poster, and then they're doing these little mini VHS stickers in all of their releases.
Stickers. I mean, I haven't seen them in person yet, but I love the whole concept of them.
It's a great idea.
Yeah.
Speaking of, Brad is right there.
Oh, yeah, there he is.
What's going on, Brad? Yeah, this is one he was really hyping up. So since it's the first time on disc, make sure you're checking it out. This is one, if you want to see more titles like this, and Visual Vengeance seems to have an eye for them, this is one that you want to support pretty early.
Yeah.
Next up, is, of course, clicked out. And that's it, actually, for this week. Lots of good stuff coming. Oh, look at that. Brad also is the one that got LA Age Jabber. I am stoked on LA Age Jabber. I really want to see that one.
Yeah, it's funny.
So before we get to what is physically coming out next week, because that's normally what we do, let's go through some of these questions. John Peters first said, "All hail Cauldron Films."
Thank you.
Glad you're here. Let's see. Bren Peterson is here. Says, "Hey, I was able to actually join one of these. I love Diabolik. Order from them all the time. Currently waiting on my order with Sador to ship." And those are currently shipping, I think, right?
They are shipping. They should be done by tomorrow.
Wow, that's very quick.
Yes. Yeah.
Nice. Hilton says, "Thanks for all you do, Jesse. I loved Contraband."
Thank you.
Couch says, "Looking forward to all the good stuff from Cauldron." And John says, "Sam Deegan raves about Exhumed Films."
Yeah, Sam's local. She just did a commentary for us.
Nice.
It might be the thing that we're going to do on UHD. I don't know.
Christopher Silvestri says, "Thank you, Diabolik, and all other physical media outlets. You guys obviously have helped a lot of people here get some of their grails in, so thank you. Have you ever considered doing any live streams like Mike from Grindhouse does?"
You know, I thought about it for a little while, and then I was thinking that it's just going to seem like I'm aping Mike.
That makes sense. Although, I mean, you got a very different story to tell. There's a lot going on with Exhumed and Cauldron that
That's
behind the scenes.
True.
Ken asks, "Hey Jesse, you think you can get more copies of Sasquatch Encounters of Unknown from Code Red?"
You know, I haven't even seen those in forever.
I don't think I've seen a copy of those even for sale in ages on anywhere.
Yeah. Boy, I love Encounter of the Unknown, though.
Movies by E is asking, "How did you choose the name Diabolik? I saw the movie Diabolik was released on Blu-ray with the exact same logo."
Well, it's not exactly the same. We have a little devil head. I don't know. I mean, I don't know where they must have seen our logo, went back in time, and made their logo.
So originally the name Diabolik, was there a special meaning behind it for you?
No, I mean, honestly, I don't even remember. It came out of probably a brainstorming session of what do we call this thing?
Well, here's a good question, because I've heard it said many, many times over. I always say Diabolik. Is that the way that you refer to it? Because a lot of people say Diabolik.
Yeah, I always just say Diabolik.
That makes sense. Good to know. Movies by E says, "Remember the Pieces Puzzle Trouble?"
Oh my God. Remember that guy? There was a guy, and he accused me of opening up the puzzles or opening up the pieces and selling the puzzles on eBay. But meanwhile, you could still just buy the movie on my website at regular price with the movie and the puzzle and everything. It wasn't even right. It was such a non-issue, that guy.
John says, "Who do you think is going to release the first 4K of a Vincent Price film?"
Or maybe he meant Richard Price. Maybe it's going to be Clockers.
I'm willing to bet that we get like a 4K House on Haunted Hill from the studio soon.
Is House on Haunted Hill just public domain these days, though? I don't.
Yeah, it might be.
I mean, where's the negative to that? It's one of those things that, sometimes it looks horrible and sometimes it looks amazing. And I would love that. That would be great.
Ice is asking, "Does Jesse game? Hear about the Metal Hellsinger game original soundtrack featuring System of a Down, Lamb of God, and Trivium?"
I like the game. I don't have a lot of time. I just finished this week Resident Evil Village, which I swear I bought that right at the pandemic, so it's 2 years. So it took me 2 years. It's not even a long game, so.
That's how I am. Once I had kids, it was just kid games. It's so hard to play something like, I bought the second Red Dead Revolution or Red Dead Redemption or whatever it is, the second one. I've played maybe 8 hours of it. I'm so far behind.
Yeah, same. Everything.
Let's see. Ken is asking, Paths of Glory 4K, is that going to go up for pre-order soon?
That was in the Kino spreadsheet that I've got ready to go as soon as I can find the time to put them up on the website. Probably this weekend.
Hilton is ordering Universal Noir from you as soon as it hits the site.
Yeah. I just waiting, sometimes they make these announcements and I don't have and especially with things in the UK, I got to know what the exact pricing is from my distributor, or, I'm out on that.
Right. All that shipping. I can't imagine the headaches behind all that. And
Uh,
that's another reason. I mean, thank you guys for being able to take on that mess so we don't have to one by one.
Those drive box sets are such a mess.
Are just most of them damaged?
No, there was a good chunk of them that came just damaged enough that I wouldn't want to send them out to somebody. If you were looking at it, if I had it at a show, you would probably be like, that's what you're talking about?
Right.
But, and what's funny is the distributor sent them to me. They came like, the UPS guy opened his truck and the boxes started falling out like an avalanche. They were piled to the ceiling, and the guys had put old dead stock Blu-rays all around in the boxes instead of like bubble wrap. And right. I now have 300 copies of the Chernobyl Diaries from the UK that I don't know what to do with. I guess I'm going to put them up on the website for like $1 a piece. If you want the Chernobyl Diaries on Blu-ray, please, I am your man. I'm your Huckleberry.
Well, and those Drive,
Chernobyl Diaries.
That release of Drive is not small. This thing is huge.
Oh, it's huge. Yeah.
And it's heavy. I can't imagine those boxes shipped well at all.
No. And especially, they fell out of the truck.
Right. They
fell on me.
What a mess. Iron Rooster wants to know, are there any updates on the Messiah of Evil pre-orders?
Yes, the shirt guys are taking forever. I'm sorry. I have the slipcovers. I have the film. I'm just waiting on the shirts. So as soon as the shirts are in, it's going to be a priority to get them out the door.
I do have the Diabolik shirt that you guys put out, and man, that shirt is so nice. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah.
I was so glad you put it out. It is such a great design.
I originally had, so it says Physical Media Advocates.
Right.
I had originally planned on it saying something else, and some people talked me out of it that it might be offensive. So I'm never a good gauge for this thing. With the contraband magnet that we did that looks like a cigarette pack, I don't have one sitting here. I decided to come home and do this call, so I don't have them. They're in my office.
I can reach for it, maybe. It's under all of my bubble wrap from your order. Okay.
Well, so Johnny Ryan did this for us, and I love his stuff. It's so offensive and nutty, and I just love his style.
Finally, here we go.
There we go. So my original plan, and by the way, guys, if you haven't seen Contraband, that is a pivotal scene in the movie. It's kind of like the scene in The Godfather. Is that Godfather 2 where they go through and kill everybody? They kill Mo Green and shoot him in the eye. Spoiler. But
spoiler for Godfather.
Yeah, there's a scene. There's a segment in Contraband like that, except that it's Fulci, so people get their brains literally blown out of their heads. But I had asked the artist to make that spaghetti and meatballs coming out of the back of his head instead of brains. And I was told by a number of people that was very culturally insensitive. Yeah, well, it is, but
I love that you have done stuff like that. Here's the other magnet from you guys.
Yeah, my partner came up with that logo. He kind of sketched it out, and then we had the guy that painted the American Rickshaw cover for us did the actual painting, but it was my partner that came up with the actual concept of that logo.
It's such a great one, and one that you can easily identify. Doesn't look like anything else.
I love that. Yeah.
Antoine says, I got the first 6 Cauldron from Amazon Canada, trying to get the rest, but the shipping from the US is too expensive.
The shipping from the US is crazy. It's so expensive.
It has exploded in the last 18 months.
Oh, it just keeps going up.
Yeah.
I shipped first class is only good up to 16 ounces. So once you hit a pound, you can't ship something first class. I shipped a first class box the other day. It cost me $6.25.
Jeez.
You know, it used to be first class was the cheap service.
$3,
You're almost into priority mail territory there.
Right.
And then shipping overseas is it just keeps going up.
I've shipped quite a few overseas, obviously nothing near the number you have, but I mean, even like 3 years ago, shipping just one movie to Canada was a good like $12 to $16. And now for one film, I think the last one, it was like $25, almost 30 for one movie.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's, international shipping, unlike the US where it cuts off at 16 ounces, it cuts off at 8 ounces. So you can really only get one disc in that 8 ounces, and then you're immediately jumping to $25, $30.
Yep.
For 2 discs.
And that one disc better not have a booklet or anything.
No, exactly. That when we do the Cauldron releases, we make sure that one disc is under 8 ounces.
Jeez. And that's a good thing to point out, is that a label is considering stuff like that. And so obviously with the label, they're not out to get anybody or, make it too expensive or anything. They're there to try to accommodate customers. I mean, that is something that are on these people's minds.
Yeah. Sometimes it can't be helped. Like the Henry Portrait of a Serial Killer from Arrow, the UK was 25 ounces. It was a full 25 ounces.
I can't imagine how much this is.
That nothing compares to the German Dune box set. It weighs almost 6 pounds boxed. By the time I put that thing in a box, wrap it in bubble wrap,
6 pounds.
It's almost 6 pounds. And that's the kind of thing that I've got to ship that media mail.
Right.
But the post office was inspecting them and sent them back to me and said it couldn't go media mail because it's in this big, dumb plastic case. They didn't know what it was.
Oh, come on.
Oh, if you put stickers or an advertisement for something or
even
a t-shirt,
a poster,
you can't ship in media mail.
Right. And that's, I'm shocked. There's been a few times people have posted in like Facebook groups that their Scream Factory releases that they order from Scream Factory. They've come and charged them to pick them up because it has a poster in it. And that's an advertisement.
It's yes. Yeah.
Wild. Anyways, if you can say, I know that you just kind of gave a tease, but GK fan wants to know, do you think Cauldron UHDs will be combos or just UHD in the package?
I will tell you that what we're working on now is almost certainly going to be a combo.
I think a lot of
but
people
what we're working on now is probably going to be a little more elaborate than a standard release.
That makes sense.
We're also doing Thriller. That's what I'm going to do. We're going to do a UHD of Thriller as well. But it's going to be 5 discs instead of 4.
Now that they call her One Eye is not a part of the 4K release, Cauldron is going to pick that up. That makes sense.
Yeah.
I'm curious. Obviously, you're into physical media and have been for a long time. Are you still like a personal collector? Do you still get a lot of these new releases yourself?
I can't help myself.
Yeah.
But, people would come over and would crawl out of their skin to see. I literally have piles of stuff around my desk and piled on the floor. People would come over and be appalled and don't even try to find anything. Only I know where anything is.
That's exactly how I am, and my wife hates it.
But not only that, I still buy CDs. I still buy books. I just piles of everything, and don't with the toys. I'm a grown man. Don't even talk to me about toys.
Jeff asks, as a retailer and part of a label, do you feel like the collector's market is a good or bad thing in physical media?
Yeah, I have mixed feelings about it.
There's a lot of there's a lot of online debate lately about the idea of what a collector means in this hobby. And there are some people that are essentially upset that some labels are releasing limited edition stuff like Thriller. I mean, it sold 10,000 copies
It's crazy, right?
10,000 copies.
But God bless Vinegar Syndrome that before they sold those 10,000 copies, they went around and asked everybody how many they wanted.
Right.
So, and you know, I gave them a number that they did not say no to. I was really happy about it. But you know, I didn't expect them to sell out 10,000 copies either.
Right.
Maybe they didn't as well. You know, yeah, I'm glad we have the collector's market. Of course I am. You know, and you know, the limited edition really helps us at Cauldron pay for the next release.
Of course.
You know, as we get more into this and start having things coming out on a more consistent basis, you know, that'll be great. But we based, like Cauldron, Contraband, for example, you know, we took orders for that. Yeah, we never gave an edition size because we made an edition based on how many pre-orders we took, and then we added more on top,
right,
so that people could get them. If you really want it, I mean, you're going to get it because
and it's a Fulci.
You'll get it.
That's a big deal for a lot of people that are into this sort of thing. Just the name Fulci means a lot
to me too. Yeah.
One of the other things that come with the collector's market, unfortunately, I'm sure definitely impacts you in a negative way. And I'm curious, just from somebody that runs Diabolik, what is some advice that you wish everybody that bought from your site would be able to hear from you so that you got less complaints?
Well, you know, I wish everyone had a little more patience with shipping. Shipping takes time. You know, we have to put things, we wrap them up and put them in a box. We don't, you know, throw them. We don't pull a tab off an envelope and throw them in there and out to the mail. You know, I saw people online complaining that they haven't gotten their Vinegar Syndrome order.
Yeah.
But, you know, we know they sold 10,000 copies of Thriller.
And on a lot of people didn't buy that, right?
Yeah. So, you know, it takes time. And, you know, the other thing, sometimes I get returns that I really and honestly can't find anything wrong with, that people were unhappy with.
Right.
And, you know, they send that back. I got to pay to send that back. I got to pay to send them another copy. You know, we have good customers that are very gracious, like, you know, just throw it in my next order, or can you just send me a slipcover? But, you know, I don't have extra slipcovers. I don't.
Right. You're not MVD.
Yeah. I mean, I do with Cauldron. We made them. We made extras. So we have them. But, you know, mistakes happen. We're all human. It's kind of the nature of the business of mail order. Sometimes you get the wrong thing. Sometimes things arrive damaged. We never want these things to happen, but they do.
On that note, I will say I want to thank you personally, because the packing material that you guys use is so nice. I as far as I can remember, first off, I've been shopping from Diabolik for years. You could probably buy a car with the amount of money I've sent you. But
my daughter's car is in the driveway. Thank you.
I literally just talked about this on stream about Vinegar Syndrome, because you and Vinegar Syndrome are the only two places that use those bubble mailer pockets, and they are so nice for people that also buy and sell on their own, and being able to ship in those, it is so nice to recycle them. And yeah, they protect everything so well.
Please, I would be sick if I thought people were throwing those things out.
Right.
Not only do they cost I mean, per piece they don't cost a lot of money, but in the grand scheme of things, packing supplies cost a lot of money. Tape, boxes, bubble envelopes. And we try to, sometimes you'll get a really shitty looking box from us because we've reused that box. That came from someplace else. We had to peel some stickers off. And, I hate throwing out boxes and bubble wrap, and I try to reuse whatever I can.
Movies by E asked a pretty funny one. Have you ever heard anything from Dark Force? The demon went pretty hard on his stream when you sold the farmer.
The Scorpion called me one day and said, "Do you want to sell the farmer?" And I said, "Absolutely, yeah." And that was really all there was to it. There was no conspiracy or anything.
Right.
And I've got no ill will against Dark Force.
Jeff says
we're all in this together, aren't we?
Well, and that is the perfect segue for this, because I already know the answer.
Yeah.
Do you see other retailers as rivals? I assume the answer is obviously not.
No, I mean, listen, everyone's going to have their favorite shop. I can't control that. And, do I like Amazon? No, it's terrible. It's terrible. They treat people terribly. They treat your product terribly. They don't care about that. Listen, there's something they're selling this week I had a conversation with both the label and the distributor about something they're selling this week. And everybody assures me that they are just taking a loss on it. And, how do I compete with that?
Exactly.
I'm not going into space. I don't have a yacht so big that I have another yacht to go with my big yacht. So, but I do have more hair than Jeff Bezos. I'll tell you that.
I had Mike from Grindhouse on here earlier this year, and the longest part of our conversation was talking about why people shouldn't use Amazon. Is there any horror stories that you've had? Like Mike shared one about Amazon returning literally a pallet's worth of stuff, and I think it was MVD. They had to cover the entire thing. Just to warn people why we don't support Amazon.
Yeah. I know a story. I don't know if I should tell this. Well, I'll give you a roundabout story, but it's not Amazon. It's Best Buy. I know a label who, and this is going back a long way. They were asked by Best Buy to make a DVD version of something they were making a Blu-ray out of. And they ordered a ton. And then before the release, changed their mind. They didn't want any. And they were made specifically for them.
That's a lot of balls.
But, what do you do when you're a label trying to make money? I know there's people that will not shop at anywhere but Amazon.
Right.
So, and also, I also know that if I need, labels for my thermal printer, where am I going to get those?
Right.
I tried to buy them direct from the manufacturer that I get them from on Amazon, and they told me it was easier if I just bought them from Amazon.
I mean, that's a lose-lose for everybody. But
yeah, I don't even understand that. But it's a giant evil corporation. What are you going to do though? I mean, sometimes you need an extension cord that's going to be delivered by 3 p.m. today.
That's true. And there's no more Radio Shack, so get to it.
I lament that. I miss Radio Shack.
Me too. Radio Shack was kind of the perfect store for a lot of that tinkering type perfection.
You needed a cable. Where did you go? You went to Radio
14
Shack.
Different types of adapters. Yeah, they were great.
Yeah. You wanted a bootleg Atari system? Where'd you go? It's Radio Shack.
That's true.
It's handy.
Back to the collector side of things. Right now, a lot of people are complaining about like the speculation market, and with Thriller selling 10,000 copies, I can't imagine, especially the limits that you and Vinegar Syndrome and these other places are putting on purchasing. I can't imagine a lot of these are going to scalpers. But do you have any sort of feelings or experience with a lot of people buying these to sell in 4 months for 4 times the price?
I know it happens.
Right.
And I will tell you from personal experience, I haven't used eBay and I couldn't tell you how long. I mean, except to buy some things.
The fees are crazy. I couldn't do it now.
Oh, it's like nuts.
It's
right?
like 15% for physical media, something like that.
Yeah. But when we recently moved and we were unpacking a lot of stuff and stuff that hadn't seen the light of day in a long time, I found a ton of stuff. I found copies of Dead Alive. I found copies of Miss 45. I put that stuff up for a reasonable price.
Right.
I looked it up on eBay and said, well, I'm not charging that for it. So, I think this is a fair price. This is going to make somebody happy that they got it at this price.
I agree. And I know that some of the ones that you've announced, like Return of the Living Dead, you found some of those with slip covers just a couple months ago.
Yeah.
My patrons, I have a Discord which is another little community, kind of like its own chat room, and I put stock updates. So when you post something, or Orbit gets new titles in, or something's available to pre-order that we've been waiting on, I go share it in there. And I know a couple of them that you've announced like that, and I was able to get some people in there some good copies. So we
Yeah,
all
thanks.
thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. So, it happens. It's got to happen. And I'm sure,
Right.
I haven't even looked. I'm sure there's thrillers on eBay for a ton of money.
There's some that have already sold for over $100.
But, the craziest thing I've seen recently is the slip-covered Good, Bad, and the Ugly.
Right.
Which is probably the most emails I get asking about slipcovers is Good, Bad, and the Ugly every day. When we originally took orders for that, we didn't even get our full shipment with slipcovers. We got about half. So they just didn't make enough, I guess, for that one.
Yeah, that's I believe that's what they say. That was their I think that was their first title that they were playing with the slipcover explosion right around then, and they just underestimated how many they were going to need. And it's obviously a title like that in 4K, it's going to sell very well.
Yeah.
But then they just released 200 more of those slipcovers on Blu-ray.com. Kino themselves sold them and allowed people to go in and buy them. So
just the slipcover, right?
just the slip, and they charge $20 a piece.
I know what those slipcovers cost, and that seems like a lot of money. The slipcovers that we use are a little more intricate than that, and not only do those cost a fair amount of money, but they have, we got to hear from the replicator. Well, that has so many folds, and they've got to charge you X amount of money to put those together. So it's not just sliding that thing
Right.
on. Watch this motion I'm doing here. They don't just slide that slipcover on. It's
A little faster, please.
Take it and fold it in, fold the tabs in, and fold it in, and then put it in the sideways, and then shrink wrap it, and it's a whole thing.
Well, since you have all those details, I'm curious. I've never heard about this. How much extra are you charging, or are they charging you for like the embossing and the spot gloss? Is that anything crazy?
It's it's all a game also of how many you're printing.
Right.
So, on something that we made a lot less of, like Lies of the Fox Fairy, our license for that was for X number of copies. It wasn't for years. It was, you're allowed to make this number of copies, and that's it. You can't make any more. So we went real light on the slipcovers. So they cost a lot more money. But, that, off the top of my head, it's 10 or 15 cents per feature for the embossing and for the spot gloss per slipcover. So it adds up.
And that's, I mean, when you're talking in terms of like 2,000 or 3,000 releases, that's a lot of money at the end of the day.
Yeah, and that's on top of that expensive cardboard. And then we have desperately tried to find print shops in the US that will make them, and nobody makes them. It's you have to outsource it to China.
Well, and discs can't be made here. There's a lot of stuff that you just can't get here. It's ridiculous.
It's tough. And I was even trying to just buy some we use a Viva Elite case.
Mm-hmm.
I was just trying to buy 10,000 cases from them to have them, and I couldn't even get them to call me back
Because it was too small of a number?
I have no idea. I don't know.
Oh, wow. Weird.
I mean, I'm not done trying that, but sometimes cases are really hard to come by.
They are.
If I got to replace an Aero case for somebody, that's tough business.
I can't imagine the headache you had when they started shipping out the blue Aero cases for a while.
It was during a sale. And then I started getting them in, and I called up and said, guys, is this a mistake? Did you even know? And there was evidently a shortage of the clear ones. So they just went blue. Yeah, I heard a lot about it.
That's sad. It's so sad.
Yeah. I mean,
Let's
I understand. You want, you want some symmetry to your
of
arrow
course.
releases. You want them to look the same on the shelf. It makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, I get it to a point, but the endless complaining about it, and it really is endless. And then you get the people that don't read the first 27 complaints about it, so there's still a person every day when it was first happening that had to complain. Yeah, there's so
Yeah.
much.
It was a lot.
Let's go back to announcements and talk
Yeah.
about what's coming out next week, because I believe most of these big ones you either already had in stock or are probably about to get them.
Yeah.
We got Fire in the Sky from Scream Factory.
Great
Um,
movie, by the way. I love that movie.
yes, I
So
I
good.
literally just got that in today and need to watch it. It is in my must watch in the next 2 weeks pile.
Yeah.
Shaft 4K from Criterion. That is a pretty big title. I think you guys had that one listed, right?
I have it. Yeah. I think I got distracted when I was putting up the stuff that just came in today, and I don't think that made it up. But I have it. It's in stock. If you pre-ordered it, it's already out the door.
Nice. NVIDIA Rewind, their re-release of Vampire's Kiss is about to drop. And then this one I know you got in, Uncle Sam in 4K from Blue Underground.
I already watched it even.
Nice. How's it look?
It looks great. Uncle Sam is a solid, underrated film. It is a good movie. And it's got such a good cast. It's got Isaac Hayes and Robert Forster. And the Uncle Sam, the makeup on this thing is so good. Yeah, it's a good movie. It's got a real nasty streak to it too. I noticed. It's written by Larry Cohen as well. So right at the beginning of the movie, there's a kind of like a one-liner that kind of falls flat, and then that tone of the whole movie just went away. I don't know if they thought that wasn't going to work and they just shifted away from it, but aside from that, it's a tense and violent movie. I like it a lot.
It's been some time since I've seen it. I can't wait to get that one in. Their 4Ks are astounding from Blue
Underground. Good. Oh my God, Zombie.
It's a revelation to see it like that.
Yeah.
King Ralph is coming from Mill Creek as part of their wonderful VHS retro line. Forced Entry, I think that's a Dark Force title.
Yeah, I think so.
And then Rouge from Criterion from 1987. Film Movement is putting out The Brain from Planet Eros. Film Detective, not Film Movement. A lot of these older ones, how do those sell for you? I'm curious.
Great.
Good.
These Film Detective titles have been really good for us, and I'm here for them too. I like what they're doing.
The ones that they've put out that have like a 4K restoration and they're advertising that pretty hard, they do some really good stuff on their restorations, and I'm really glad that people are noticing them because they deserve it.
I think that they're not talked about enough.
Agreed.
Yeah.
UFO Incident with James Earl Jones is from Kino, and I believe you already have that one in, right?
Yeah, we do.
Wonderful looking slipcover that is using the exact same art. Why do they do that? I wish
know.
They would get some other art. Somebody in the comments just mentioned that too, about The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. He said, I would have been more concerned about the slipcover for The Good, the Bad, the Ugly if it wasn't the same art.
Yeah, it's the same art. This thing that we're working on with the UHD has already got great art, and then it's got great alternate art, and then we commission somebody, and I don't even think we're done. I think we've got maybe one more piece of art that we're thinking about for that too.
And that's, like with Thriller, there are so many different pieces of art on that release. I'm so glad that they just ran with it and it didn't just stop, because
it looks great, right?
Yeah.
All of those different pieces.
Agreed. Universal Soldier is coming in 4K with Jean-Claude Van Damme. It's getting a Lionsgate Steelbook from Best Buy next Tuesday.
Oh. Is it some sort of weird exclusive? Maybe it is, because I don't remember seeing that listed anywhere.
The Steelbook is exclusive to Best Buy.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of theirs, they're coming with those plastic sleeves on the outside, so they're
Yeah,
actually
those are
probably
cool.
a little more protected.
Yeah, but those crack too.
Yeah,
So
that's very true.
yeah.
Uh, the initiation of Sarah is coming from Arrow next week.
Yeah, we have that. I haven't seen that movie, but it looks good. And I hear Edge of Sanity is wild, and I haven't seen that either.
Edge of Sanity is really good, and I think Anthony Perkins is kind of slept on as an actor outside of Psycho. I think that he is a lot better than people give him credit for.
I think that movie kind of defined his career, and for better or worse.
Well, even the entire series. I mean, he directed one of them. A lot of people forget that he took up the mantle, and I think it isn't it Psycho 3 that he
Yeah,
did,
because Mick Garris did two, right? And then Perkins did
something like
three,
that.
and then isn't there a TV movie that's a
There is a TV movie
four,
yet.
and then there's a TV series that he's not in.
In fact, I think there's two TV series. I think there was one that was short lived a long time ago, and
Oh,
then
that could be.
that new
The
Bates
Bates
Motel.
Motel show was interesting. It wasn't all successful, but pretty good. And Olivia Cook is in Sound of Metal, and she's real good in that too.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Garris did Psycho 4, the TV film.
Oh, okay, all right.
Heart and Souls is also coming from Mill Creek and their retro VHS line.
Good
Go
movie.
ahead.
You could do worse than a romantic comedy than that.
That is something I foresee getting a little bit of a resurgence. I feel like there's a lot of romantic comedies from the 90s and maybe early 2000s that seems like it's due for a nostalgia trip for a lot of people.
You know what's a good one that needs to be re-released is Untamed Heart with Christian Slater and Marissa Tomei, where he believes that he's got a baboon heart. It's a good one.
I did not expect to tell two stories about my mom tonight, but after I talked about the Phantom of the Paradise thing, she got here and she has not seen my room with all the collection in a long time. So we were looking around, and I asked her if she had ever seen Heather's, and great story about my mom to tell on here. But out of nowhere, she goes, "You probably don't know this, but I found out later I did some jail time with Christian Slater." She
That's
said,
really
"I didn't
funny.
know who he was at the time, but when I got picked up, he had this big entourage picking him up as well. It was hilarious."
It's funny.
Let's see. After Yang is coming from A24 next week, and a lot of people that I trust their opinions say that's one of the best of the year. Do you stay up to date with a lot of the newer releases?
I do, but I don't know that movie except that it's, I keep seeing it pop up on the list of things that are on pay-per-view.
Yeah, a lot of good stuff on VOD lately. That's one to look at. Let's see. Pastor Hall coming from Indicator, and Monday Morning, another MVD Rewind title. This one I have definitely not seen. Have you seen that one yet?
No, I have not. And it seems, I don't know, I wouldn't say it seems insensitive. I know that MVD has probably planned this release for a while, but
yeah,
when you got a movie with a picture of a guy with a gun in front of a school, I don't know how well that's going to sell. But
I know that there were a handful of people that were upset that Duck, the Carbine Massacre, was being sold still during the Vinegar Syndrome sale.
I got mixed feelings. I mean, I don't know. I've known William Hellfire a long time too. He's not a local guy to me, but New Jersey guy. So, that movie was something,
Made some waves, and I'm not a big fan of censorship at all. So,
no.
Yeah.
To each his own, and I don't think anyone's going to go shoot up a school because they watch Monday Morning. But
right, and at the same time, just like we've said for years, like when Hillary Clinton tried to censor all of the music back in the 90s, if you don't like it, don't buy it. It's really not that hard.
Yeah, that wasn't Hillary though. That was Tipper Gore, right?
That's right. Yeah. I was still very young back then. I remember it was a big deal in our town because we were on some national news story about the explicit sticker for some reason.
Yeah.
And I grew up in this tiny town, and I don't know why we were in the national news for it.
Yeah, that was dumb.
Yeah. Fully agree. Oops, I clicked something. I think that's it for the big boutiques for next week. But on the subject of boutiques, are there any, say, in the last 18 months that Jesse was super impressed with and would recommend that everybody get their hands on? Any big releases?
Any big releases? Well, I'll tell you what I really was enamored with. I love Mondo Macabro. Even if I watch something of theirs that I don't like,
Right.
I'm always glad I watched it. And Queens of Evil was something that really wasn't even on my radar, and I just think that movie is terrific. I just loved everything about it. And I wouldn't say that was a bigger release, but I'm a little jealous because I'd love to have had something like that. You know, now that I release my own titles, you know, that's the biggest thing. Man, I wish I'd released that. Or, you know, I could tell you that I talked to the rights holder for Faceless, and then, you know, 2 weeks later, he's like, I sold it to somebody else.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, so that was separate. But, you know, there's things that come out, and I'm like, man, I just really wish I had gotten that. And there's been some things that just slipped right through my fingers. Something I worked on for over a year, and then the person was just like, you know what, I changed my mind. I sold it to somebody else for more money.
That's got to be frustrating.
Yeah, it is. It is. But, you know, I am so excited and enthusiastic about everything that is in the Cauldron right now. You know, we are working on these things kind of nonstop. So we have commentaries for things that I don't even know when they're going to come out, but we've got a commentary for them.
That's fantastic.
But yeah. And again, my partner, Brian, is just working so hard on getting these things restored, and also, for better or worse, that he's got such a good eye for these things that he wants them to look. You know, I think every boutique label all learns from each other of things that don't look right or things that happen with packaging, and, you know, and you know, moving forward.
It's got to be nice when another label makes that misstep for you, so you can learn from it and not release something like that.
I don't, you know, because on the Diabolik side of that, I don't want anything. I don't want anything to be bad, or, you know, have you know, this is going way back, but when Blue Underground did the Mondo Kane collection, and it came in this clear plastic sleeve, and they all cracked. The sleeve that held them, they just all cracked from, you know, the story I heard was when they did the shrink wrapping process, the heat caused them to crack.
Yikes.
So it was a whole huge thing. But, you know, I don't want that to happen to anybody, because I know that must have cost a fortune to fix, and then people were upset, and, you know, I want everything to go smoothly.
Of course.
Yeah.
I've got a few other questions about your opinion on some boutique stuff, but you gave kind of a perfect segue. You brought up Mondo Macabro. I love Mondo Macabro, and Jared has been on the channel before and mentioned a collaboration with you. Is there anything more that you can share on that yet?
You know, I would really like to.
We can wait. That's fine.
Yeah, the first title is just about done. I wasn't going to say the title. The first title is just about done, and I will say that it's going to be very nice. It looks super, and you know, it was something that came to us in really bad condition. So it's never looked better. It's never going to look perfect, but it's also something that there's a couple different cuts of the movie that we have prepared and ready to go. And, you know, before we even started this with Jared, Cauldron had bought something else that we realized was a perfect fit for this venture. So there's two things being worked on, and I think the third thing is maybe going to be signed pretty soon. So, you know, that's seeming to be a pretty healthy label as well.
Nice. So obviously you are privy to a lot of these labels coming out with stuff. Is there any that are just overall super impressive to you for their quality and what they're putting out, and something that you've just really been keen on for every announcement that they're putting out?
You know, I love, you know, it's so hard to say because I really do love, I love the things that Severin put out. I love the things that Mondo Macabre put out. I love Vinegar Syndrome. I love all these guys, and that's the beauty of being on both sides of this is I get to see, you know,
Right.
as a retailer, I can't wait, and then as a label, I'm like, oh, shit. You know, when Severin put out Siege, I was like, shit, that was on my list. I really,
Siege is so
I have
good.
I have a list of things that I would love to find, and Siege was on there. And you know, but hey, I didn't have to put any work into it, and I have this beautiful disc, so I can enjoy it either way.
One comment I got from Hilton that says, "Thanks for carrying Imprint. I know that those seem to do pretty well on your site."
Good, they're real good, and those, you know, they are a little pricey. Those box sets, the Warriors and Wicker Man, and then this tease they put out today, which I can only assume is Walter Hill.
Yeah,
That's something.
it's a big
I
deal.
think though I have all those movies. I'm positive I do.
Yeah, and that's the other thing that a lot of people fail to realize about a site like Diabolik is we're essentially consolidating titles from the entire world and bringing them on one site for people. So yes, you may have every Walter Hill release, but it's really a release for Australia, and a lot of those movies maybe aren't out there.
Yeah,
But you get people complain, well, we already got this in a release 2 years ago. Well, that was in UK, and now this is one for the US. So
yeah,
we should be happy with that.
yeah. I love Walter Hill. Although I watched 48 Hours again recently, and I didn't think it held up very well at all.
I think the sequel holds up a little better.
I never liked the sequel, but I did not revisit that after the first one.
That
But-
makes sense.
I revisited Streets of Fire all the time. So
Well, and Extreme Prejudice is getting a lot of love lately.
it's a great movie.
Uh,
Hard Times is really terrific.
Flickering Wave says we were talking about rom-coms. The Matchmaker and Next Stop Wonderland should get Blu-ray soon.
Next Stop
And-
Wonderland's great. Is Matchmaker, is that is it a Nicolas Cage movie?
That sounds right. Let me
I
take a
don't know.
look as we talk. The other one, I got another comment that says, do you think, or Second Sight is supposedly releasing all of these by the end of the year? Martin, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and The Hitcher, they're all in 4K. Second Sight, they are probably my go-to as incredibly impressive lately. Obviously, this is maybe a little overkill for me. It's huge,
Yeah,
but the quality is kind of unmatched. What do you think about Second Sight?
love them. Love that. You know, I thought the guest release was fantastic. I'm trying to think off the top of my head what else. Oh, The Nightingale. That is a terrific movie too,
Love that
and their
movie.
release was great. I can't wait for The Witch. People complain about The Witch, but I don't know what there is to complain about that movie. I love that
Right.
movie.
Did you ever see Under the Shadow that they put out?
You know, a really terrific underrated movie, Under the Shadow. Not enough people talk about that thing.
I
It's great.
love Under the Shadow. That's
Yeah,
one I
it's
tried to
really
talk about
good.
a lot.
He's a creepy old genie.
Marvin says American Rickshaw was my Blu-ray discovery of the year last year. Loved it. Thank you.
You know, that was the catalyst for Cauldron. That we were sitting around at a convention, Brian and I, and we were talking about that movie, and we said, let's see if we can get that movie and put it out. So that was the first thing. And then it all opened up from there.
Nice. Back to the Diabolik side. Is
Yeah.
there a handful or even just one or two labels that they clearly sell better than the rest for you?
Well, you know, like I said, the Vinegar Syndrome, I think they sell a lot direct.
Right.
And Mondo Macabre, they have the direct red case sales. But the Mondo Macabre titles are pretty consistently good sellers.
Good.
Pretty much all of them. They keep going.
Wow.
But you know, although their output isn't huge, Grindhouse Releasing, I am always restocking Cannibal Holocaust, The Beyond, just all the time. And I really hope that Bob has been thinking about doing a 4K of both of those things. It would be so good to have.
Sincerely hope so.
Yeah, I don't know how many more times I could watch Cannibal Holocaust in my life. I've probably seen it too many times. We're an extra on the disc because we were the first people in the U.S. to show it theatrically, and so that was one of the. We've shown it several times, so I've seen it all those times we've shown it, and then back in the bootleg days when that was the only way to see that thing, and then I've got the laser disc from wherever that came out in Sweden or wherever.
Right.
Still have that around here someplace.
If I remember right,
it would be nice to have a 4K of it.
I think his DVD copy of that has a documentary that they couldn't get for the Blu-ray. It would be nice to get that back on a 4K release.
If I did it, it would come in a 100-year-old turtle shell
that you have to dust off.
Yeah.
Oh,
you have to
man.
crack it open in order to get to the disc. But will you ever crack it open? Because you don't want to.
So you got to buy two.
It's like the when Mondo did that Fight Club LP, and you had to literally rip the packaging to get to the platter.
Let's see. Speaking of Grindhouse, Michael W. Howard says Death Game is by far the best movie I've gotten this year.
I want to carry it so much. I want the retail release. It's only available through them, which is great. I mean, like I said earlier, the direct sales keep the lights on at Cauldron. So,
right.
I understand it completely, but as Diabolik, I want Death Game on the site. Yesterday.
I'm sure it would sell well. And Grindhouse, they've always had the weird wording where they're like, hey, you better get this before it sells out, but it's always just about a printing, and then they sell another 2,000 more. So I mean, just sell them retail. Come on. Let's get back to Cauldron. In your experience with Cauldron, have you found an average timetable for a release from acquisition to release? Or, I mean, I'm sure everyone specifically is its own story, but is there an average, you think?
No, and we haven't been doing it long enough to come up with an average, but I will also tell you that we had a discussion recently about we really need to, we kept like getting new things and saying, let's put this one out now. But meanwhile, we've got something that we've had for 2 years now that we haven't finished with yet. So we said, let's get some of this other stuff out. For example, this thing that we're doing on UHD was a more recent acquisition, and we were just like, shit, let's fast track this one.
Right.
So no, and the other thing is too that we've had very varying quality on the transfers that we get, which is also dependent on how quickly things get out.
Well, and that over the last couple of years could not be easy to deal with either. The whole underlying story of this is we've been under a global pandemic, and starting a label during that time can't be easy.
We announced American Rickshaw right before the lockdown.
Right.
And I will also tell you that we tried very hard to get several Hong Kong titles, which was impossible to get during the lockdown. And then we lost them all to other people because we bought other things instead in the meantime. And
Hong Kong's exploded.
I know, right?
Are putting it out.
It wasn't. There was a minute that we were like, why is no one doing this? But now, now it's beautiful though, because also again, I don't have to put it. I didn't have to spend $20,000. I can spend $20 and get this beautiful disc that someone else did the work on for me. Now I can just watch the Shaw set and terrific.
Exactly. With the pandemic, are there anything other than just being able to get into Hong Kong to get some of these titles and other things? Are there any major setbacks that you could share with people and why some things took so long? Obviously, we had wasn't there a worldwide paper shortage for a while?
I was just going to say that is the reason that that Contraband and Murder in a Blue World were so late is because the inserts, everything was done. Not even the slipcovers were a problem. They were done ahead of time, and then they were just like, we can't get the paper for these things, guys.
That's crazy.
So yeah, and that is a very real thing. I talked to Synapse. You know, the Tenebrae release isn't even due out until later in July. They had that paper printed earlier in the year. They knew it was coming, and they just had it all done. So,
wow,
you know, it's the damnedest thing.
That's crazy. And then, of course, one of the other things is getting special features for some of these when you're working through a pandemic. I'm sure was a new bear to fight for you guys.
Well, you know, a lot of these Italian movies, a lot of these people are no longer with us, but the people that are still with us are all getting up there in years, you know, and during the pandemic, they didn't want to do interviews. They didn't, you know, except by Zoom.
Right.
But, you know, we kind of felt that was a cheat. I don't know. I mean, we didn't want to do it.
I get that.
And so some things we had to pass on. And things are kind of getting back to normal, though. So.
It's nice to see. And with getting back to normal, you mentioned earlier that you aren't putting out the number of releases that you want to. Is there like a hope for one day Cauldron will get to this point?
I'd love to have a schedule, but, you know, it's basically the two of us. And, you know, it's kind of a vicious cycle where if we got out more releases, we would make more money. We could get people to help us. But in order to do that, we need to get those things out the door on a more consistent basis, which we can't do unless we have some more people.
And a lot of time when you're doing it with only two people, that quality starts to drop because you're pushing it out. And
we would never want that. So, you know,
well, everything so far from Cauldron, I think, has been just really, really high quality especially for a baby label. And you can tell that the people in it, they know what they're doing. They're passionate about it. And I am just happy to see that so many people latched onto you guys from the very first release.
Me too. I'm very proud of these releases, and the work that Brian has done restoring these things. If you guys could see, we had discussed doing a kind of a before and after on Contraband, and ultimately we didn't do it. I had joked that we should probably put a bonus disc in there of the original raw transfer, but you know that. It's amazing, but I also don't think the technology was there, you know, even just a couple of years ago to do what Brian was able to do with that release. And we have a pretty amazing slate of things. You know, if you had told Video Store Me that we were going to release, you know, movies by just name Italian horror directors, I would just be shocked.
That's awesome.
I mean, even now, what we're Fulci and Sergio Martino, it's unbelievable. And then, you know, we've peppered in these newer titles, but I'm proud of those too. You know, we took some shit for the found footage films, but I stand behind those. I personally curated those two titles, and I happen to be a fan of that genre, which I know is not for everybody. And I think those movies are great.
I would agree. I think that a lot of people just heard the words found footage and stepped away, but I don't think that should be the case. There are genuinely a lot of really good found footage out there, and I'm not going to stand up for all of them. A lot of them are shit, but
you know, they're cheap to make.
Exactly.
And some of them don't even follow their own rules. They forget halfway through what they're even doing. Yeah, thanks, John. 1972 was funny that I just saw somebody speaking about it on some forum. Has anybody seen this? And then I Googled it and found that it was, you know, this Mexican found footage movie that was shot. The guy shot it on Super 8 and tracked him down within a couple of days, got a screener of it. I was like,
nice.
Let's do this thing. And he was enthusiastic, that Victor, the director, and me too. I think it's great.
So obviously you're curating things like that, but is there a vibe or something that you're going for with everything from Cauldron, or is this literally just a greatest hits from Jesse?
No, it's not just me either. Those two I curated personally, but sometimes we get a list of things,
right?
And Brian and I go through them. He picks some things out. I pick some things out. We look to see what's available. We just talked to somebody and we gave him a list of 6 things, and there was nothing available for him. There was no negative available.
Yikes.
The one thing, there was just an old SD master, which we didn't want. The one thing, we were ready to sign on the dotted line, and then they said, "Oh, we just double checked legal, and we don't actually have this film for your territory." It's like,
well, thanks.
Yeah. And then one thing, I don't want to say what it is because somebody has it now, but something that was a much bigger release than we really had any right to buy or even bid on. And man, I'd love to have gotten that title. And they were like, "Yeah, sorry, someone else just put a much bigger bid on it."
And that's one of the things I've tried to clue some people in on. This is the cost behind some of these. Obviously, no specific titles. I'm sure you're not going to give a specific price, but could you tell people like a roundabout, like from Jump Street, how much putting out one of these costs for, even something that's a little lesser, like Murder in a Blue World? It's not a Fulci title. I'm sure that one cost a little less.
It didn't.
Oh, geez.
It was, yeah.
Well, and Eloy de la Iglesia has gotten a lot of attention over the last couple of years with Severance stuff.
It's true. I don't want to go too much into numbers, but it's all over the place. It really is kind of crazy. We were looking at a couple of Hong Kong movies recently, and they came back with $50,000 for a license, which is insane. I mean,
that's crazy.
It was a lesser Hong Kong action movie. It wasn't a John Woo, or it was nothing, no great shakes.
Right.
And I was like, I don't know who could pay that and make any money off of this title. That's what I told them. And then they told me later, "Oh, don't worry, someone else bought it." Okay.
Nice.
But then, sometimes I'm surprised what things cost. Sometimes people are like, "Yeah, the 6-pack of beer and put my name on the credits."
That's awesome. I mean, the numbers we've gotten from a lot of people, it has really ranged from like a few $100s to, some of these studio releases and stuff for $100,000 for one movie, and the licensing gets crazy. But just so many people that are, fans of this hobby, they don't understand how much really goes into it. So when you complain about rising cost or something costing, $50 for a release, there's usually a reason behind it. And I don't think most of these labels are trying to gouge anybody.
No. And when you look at something like Vinegar Syndrome's Thriller, that limited box, that box costs a lot of money to make. It's got 2 slipcovers in there. Now we're talking tens of thousands of units. So, I was joking around that I can't even imagine what it costs to ship those empty boxes to their warehouse from China.
Or warehouse space for that many.
Yeah. I mean, it's crazy. But so you've got all that packaging. You've got the encoding. You've got the HDR pass that they have to do on it. They've, 2 different cuts on UHD, 2 different cuts on Blu-ray. So each one of those things is a different process. And I will tell you that Thriller license came across my desk. So I don't know what they ended up paying for it, but I know what it was offered to me for. And that price that they were charging for that was a fair price. Wow. I'll say that. When I don't have all the numbers that they spend on it, but if I had to crunch those numbers just based on estimates, that's a fair price for that release.
And then obviously 4K is going to cost a lot, and
It does. I was a little shocked.
MG says, I love Cauldron films. When I first found out it was Jesse putting them out, I was all over them to support. Diabolik is my number one go-to. Great as all the titles so far I've never heard of.
Oh, great. I love that. I know. I mean, I seriously do. I love that.
Me too.
I love that I'm bringing American Rickshaw for people to see. And American Rickshaw, it's so dumb. I love it so much. And it's Sergio Martino. Donald Pleasance is in it. Although Donald Pleasance really seems like he's never in any scene with anybody else that's in the movie.
Yep.
You know, I got a hold of Mitch Gaylord. He didn't want to have anything to do with the release. He sells real estate in Austin now. I think he's a little embarrassed that they show his butt and he smacks a woman around. But, you know, I said to him, no one wants to make fun of you. We sincerely like this movie.
Right.
You know, all we want is take a couple minutes and film a video of yourself of what it was like to work with Sergio Martino. That's all you have to say. So, he didn't really do it.
Other than American Rickshaw and we'll say the Fulci title, because those are probably the two, I would assume the two most well-known that people are clamoring after. What is the closest to Jesse's Heart that you would recommend people take a look at?
I'll tell you what, Liza the Fox Fairy, I saw on Sunday afternoon at Fantastic Fest in Austin. There was not many people in the theater. The people I was there with did not want to go. And I thought it was a fantastic film. It's so funny. It's got a really dark streak to it. And it kind of has a aesthetic of Amelie. It's got this candy-coated
It's the first thing I thought of.
Culture feel to it. And I had a real hard time convincing the licensor to give me the movie. They wanted a lot of money. A lot of money. They wanted a yearly fee for it. Which I've never heard of that. I mean, maybe somebody else in the business has heard of it. They wanted me to pay them. They wanted a multi-year agreement, and then I had to pay them a license fee every year for that multi-year agreement.
And that's the one that you said was rooted to the number of units, correct?
Yeah, so that's what we finally agreed on.
Good.
I keep waiting for them to get a hold of me and say, you know, they completely forgot that we did this, but it was a little while ago that this all happened, and it was a long process. I love the movie. It's great.
If you don't mind, not to switch too much, but on the number of units, I actually had somebody argue on one of these a couple months ago that the limited number on some of these titles, I believe it was specifically Vinegar Syndrome, since that's what gets the most attention, that licenses are never attached to number of units. So could you just, in your experience, explain some of the different options for some of these licensees?
You know, I don't know that I agree with that because I had the experience here with that, but
right.
You know, and some other things that I've encountered, like when Severin did the what's the downbeat trauma movie that they did, that very limited.
Combat Shock.
Yeah, Combat Shock. You know, they did a limited run of that.
Very small.
It was very, yeah. I got to think there was numbers involved. So, you know, some of the things that we've come across are people want a license fee. People want a license fee and royalties. People want a license fee, royalties, and they want to tell you how many units you can put out. I've had people say, you know, let's just split it. I've had people say, let's just split it, but you pay for everything. And then once we're done, I want everything back, and then I'm going to give it to somebody else. You know, there's a million scenarios. There's always, right. You know, there's everything's a little bit of this and a little bit of that. And then ultimately it comes down to, you know, some beans go here and some beans go there, and hopefully there's enough beans for us too at the end of the day.
And that is a really great note to really share at the end of this, that Cauldron and Diabolik are the exact type of literally small business that needs all the support that we can give, and not to sound a shill, not to sound like a shill for any of these companies, obviously, but when they put out good products and you are a part of this hobby, that's the type of company that you should feel proud of supporting.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes. Thank you. And, I feel the same way. Even if you're not going to spend the money with us, your favorite store is Grindhouse or Orbit or even Bull Moose. I understand that. Everyone's got their favorite shop. But, think about that when you're spending an extra couple bucks or waiting an extra couple days for your shipment, that, the money, I feed my family with Diabolik.
Exactly.
Yeah. So, it's something to consider.
And now that you've been doing this for decades, is there anything crazy coming up in the future that you can hint at for either Diabolik, for any sort of growth? I mean, obviously you just moved. Is there any exciting things coming up?
I mean, that move, well, I never thought it would happen. I never thought that I would need to do that. It's just over the years we've just ramped up to it. So that right there is kind of unbelievable to me. I'm still wrapping my head around it. And the fact that we released Contraband, I'm wrapping my head around that. Yeah. What we've got coming up, we've got it. I am so excited about the slate of things that we have coming up. I would believe you, I would love nothing more than to start rattling them off. But the reason that we're a little secretive about it is that I've been doing this for so long. I see that when people announce things, how impatient people get. When is this coming? When is this coming? And then, it's a letdown when 5 other things come out in between.
Yeah.
I'd rather wait till things are a little more, in the works, ready to go before we announce things.
I was more getting at Diabolik. I understand being secretive on titles. I know that there are things like the slipcover and shirt that is happening for a title that you're putting out with Code Red re-releasing. I mean, that I never thought I'd see something like that from you guys. That's great.
I love it. That title was completely sold out.
Yep.
People kept asking us for it, and I was like, can we just do this? Can we do another run and I'll make a slipcover for it?
Yeah.
And then Haunt Love, who did the slipcover for us, also co-owns Rough Cut Fan Club, the t-shirt company.
Nice.
So I was like, don't you just want to put that slipcover on a shirt? Because it's great.
Great design.
And he's like, how about we do that and you sell it? Okay. I mean, that's literally how that all came about.
Last question about Diabolik, and I'll give you back your night, because we've been at this for a solid 2 hours. Did you feel the pandemic push that all of these boutique distributors have talked about? Because what they have hypothesized is that everybody stuck at home got tired of streaming, and everything just kind of exploded for physical media. Was that apparent through Diabolik as well?
Yeah, I think so. I don't hate streaming, but it doesn't look good.
Right.
And I'm kind of a fan of streaming, whereas, people can't buy everything that comes out.
Of course.
So if they're going to watch something for free on Shudder and then they love it, they're going to come buy it if they're a collector.
Exactly.
So I don't hate streaming, but yeah, I don't like the way it looks. So I do the same thing. Like, I'll watch something and like The Sadness, that 4K disc from Germany just destroys the stream of that thing.
Yep, I agree.
And what a nasty piece of work that movie is.
It's a great movie.
Yeah, I just, it's so over the top that I couldn't be upset or offended by it, because it's just so ridiculous.
I love the humor in the beginning of that movie. Coming out of the pandemic, it was the perfect time to watch something where they could kind of satirize the situation that we were in.
Yeah. It's kind of what it felt like. I really enjoyed that movie.
I know that at least 2 or 3 of my patrons bought it the moment it went live on your store. So thank you for carrying releases like that. Jesse, again, from everybody, thanks for answering all the questions tonight.
Yeah.
I appreciate all the time. And as always, the links for both of Jesse's output, Diabolik and Cauldron, are in the description below. Please go give him some of your hard-earned money. Both of you and Jesse will both be happy with that.
So. Yes, thank you so much. And by the way, if you order from Cauldron or Diabolik, we're shipping both of those things, so they're all coming out of the same place.
Nice.
But again, those direct sales for Cauldron keeps the lights on for Cauldron, so we appreciate that greatly.
That makes sense. Everybody, thanks for hanging out tonight, and leave a like and share this with anybody else who might be interested, because Jesse's a pretty big name in the hobby. So
thank you, guys. That was great.
Thank you, Jesse. Have a good night, everybody.
Yep. Take care.